Here showing us how to make DIY Hypertufa planters perfect for your spring flowers is Ken. Ken, please explain to me what I just said.
Right. I figured that was coming right away.
Well, what a Hypertufa? I said it right, correct?
You did say you said it perfectly right. Hypertufa is an anthropic rock. Anthropic meaning man-made. It's a completely man-made rock like cement, concrete.
Okay.
Still confused.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was formulated by people to replace tufa. Next question.
What is tufa?
Thank you. Tufa is a naturally occurring limestone that's naturally porous. It happens where you have a limestone bed and there's waterfalls or springs. You've seen
Like
these
stalagmites and stalactites?
Exactly. Often that will be tufa. There you go. So
Yeah, sure.
and
Oh, wow.
yeah, this beautiful, actually naturally occurring rock.
Like the caverns they have in Virginia.
Exactly. Some of that is tufa. And tufa became very popular around the 1800s for alpine gardens. People would take that, dig it out, carve it, and use it for water troughs for planters.
Interesting.
Because it's porous, it's very, very good for gardening. So you see these, you'll see these old, beautiful sort of tufa planters. Now the issue is that as time went on, they became rarer and more expensive because it's a limited resource, this porous limestone. So this has been formulated to have all of those attributes, but very inexpensive, and you can make it
And
yourself.
what a great look because it's so organic.
Right,
looking
it
and
feels
so-
just
It
real.
feels natural.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love how they've come up with the name Hypertufa instead of just faux tufa. Or fake a tufa.
Faux tufa. I like
Faux
faux
tufa.
tufa.
Or
fake
So
tufa.
now we have debonaise.
Yeah.
Faux tufa.
Tufa. So how do we make these faux tufas? What do
So
we need?
what you're going to do, it's the 3 Ps. You're going to start off with Portland cement, which you can see I have in here. You can get this, at your hardware store. You want to make sure it's pure Portland cement.
Okay.
You're going to add peat moss, and the proportion should be 1 part Portland cement, 1 part
Very
peat
light.
moss,
I thought it was going to
gosh.
be heavy.
and 1
It's
part
so light.
perlite. Yeah,
Okay.
the perlite and the peat moss basically weigh nothing. Now,
Okay.
you can see in here what you want to do while it's still dry. Just give it all a good mix here.
You want to wear a mask when you do this?
If you're not inside, you should wear a mask, or if you're doing
Okay.
big batches. And then, Debbie, if you just wanted those little white fibers,
What
just
is
give me
that?
a pinch in there.
Just a
Those
pinch?
are concrete
Yeah.
reinforcing fibers.
It feels like
Pop those in.
feathers.
It's like feathers. It's like little string.
Do I
But
keep
wait,
doing it?
reinforcing?
That's enough. There you go. All right, so I'm going to mix this.
What does that do?
Okay.
And then I'll explain. So hold on, before I start that, I'm going to start adding water. You want to add water to this mixture just so you get it about the texture of like a wet cottage cheese.
Okay.
Wet cottage cheese. So the reinforcing fibers, you can get that online or at concrete stores. And what that is going to do is going to work its way amongst the ingredients and make it stronger. You don't need it for the smaller pieces, but when you get to the bigger pieces, you want that. The perlite, which
Which
the
is
white-
this,
which
yeah.
is there. Perlite, largest maker of perlite, Debbie? Greece.
My people.
It's actually a type of
Why did you have to
volcanic
go
rock.
there? You could have just said it was made
I had to
overseas.
give Debbie's people a shout out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's volcanic rock that's heated to about 1,500 degrees
It's like-
Fahrenheit.
yeah.
It's basically
Wow.
volcanic popcorn.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
it
it's
feels like.
super light.
It's super
Like-
you
light.
could
You almost
eat it.
think it's styrofoam.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
you
I
could
was
eat
gonna.
it.
I was trying to think of what I would say this feels like for our viewers.
Feels
but
like Rice Krispies.
Right. People
Yeah,
use that.
but
You'll
not.
find that in the garden store. You mix it into your soil to keep your soil. They use it in filters.
Uh-huh.
And then the next thing is peat
This
moss,
is the peat moss.
which
And the
is
peat moss,
also
I found.
sphagnum moss,
Right.
very natural.
Yeah.
These days, people are starting to actually make it with coconut fiber too, which is a natural byproduct of the coconut industry.
Yeah.
So a completely sort of sustainable.
Which is probably good
Sure,
for your
that's-
skin
I
too.
bet.
assume. Talked about the concrete is what? It's a.
And then it is Portland cement. Now, when
Portland.
you go, you'll find Portland cement in like the quickcrete section. This immediate.
yeah.
You don't want that. Ask them for pure Portland cement.
Why? Will it change the consistency?
Because you don't need the other stuff in there that makes it hard and fast. You just need, and what Portland cement is actually back to the original tufa, limestone. It's ground limestone. So basically you're doing 1/3 rock and then 2/3 other stuff.
Okay.
Well, and then we have to make it into something.
Right, so now we've got our sort of cottage cheese mixture, and you can do it a couple of ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a mold. I'm just going to use this good old bucket. I'm going to dump. Now, if you can see that consistency,
That's what
sort
it's
of like
like.
that's what you
Like
want.
mud.
Yeah.
Like mud. And you're just going to dump that in. That's going to give us our base.
Okay.
Then, Debbie, if you look under the table, there's a pint can of paint.
Yes, sir.
Plop that in there.
Put it inside.
Yep.
But you
Don't-
make a hole.
Yep, just
Yeah.
set it right on top.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit more of this. Watch your fancy clothes.
Yeah, that's.
Around the
Speaking of paint,
sides.
after it dried, could you paint it?
You could paint it to give it a sort of, but then you sort of lose a little bit of your kind of natural.
The idea behind it,
Right.
yeah.
So if you want to look here, basically that's all I'm going to do. If you can see, take a look there. Where
How
are we?
long
Right
is that
here.
going to take to dry?
What you want to do is let it dry for about 24 hours. After 24 hours, you're going to turn it out. I've
Oh
done
my
the same
goodness,
thing
look at
here.
that.
You're going to top it out.
Does it come out easily?
It should. You kind of sometimes you have to hit it a little bit.
And essentially, when you're putting in the pot, here, let me-
There you go.
Gotcha.
Oh my goodness, look at that. That's beautiful, Ken.
Now that is where you would put your plant.
Right now, but what you need to do, you have to do a little bit of prep work. You let it come out in 24 hours. It's still going to be a little moist. At that point, any rough edges, knock them off, and then let it sit for about a couple of weeks. Just let it sit and let it cure. Put a blanket or a piece of cloth over so it doesn't get dry too quickly. When it's done, you then want to put it out where your sprinklers are, or if your rain just outside, or fill it with a hose.
Why do you
'Cause
do that?
There is going to be some chemical residue from the cement, and you want to leach all
of it out
of that
so it
out.
doesn't harm the plant.
Exactly, and then once you do that, you have basically a handmade
Yeah, because that would
stone
change
planter.
the makeup of your soil that you're putting in here, right? If
Exactly,
it's got
and
a
you
lot of
don't
that
and you
lime
don't
in it.
want that.
Okay.
And so with this, you have this nice sort of solid area. On these, all I did on these more natural ones, you would get something like a bucket like this,
Yeah.
and then just dump all of that Portland cement
On top.
right on top, and let it just sort of dry naturally.
And I like how this isn't smooth on top. I like it rustic like that.
And you can make it as smooth, or I love the sort of all
Yeah.
natural. And after you've done the treating, what you've basically got is this. You've made stone. You've actually made. There's nothing unnatural in here.
But
Perlite,
let me-
peat moss.
But seriously, I mean, could somebody like Debbie lift this if she were putting things in her
So
garden?
here's interesting. I have a little test. Lift that up.
Oh my goodness.
It's about a third or a fourth of the way to concrete. Lift that up. Same size.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well,
Right?
you're right. Oh my gosh.
So if you-
That's crazy
isn't that-
how light that
It's
is.
so
Yeah.
light
It's
because
super
so much
light.
of it is the peat moss and the perlite. And and it costs, each of these things is a couple bucks.
How much
you
would it
can-
cost if we were to buy
A
'em?
whole batch will cost you maybe $10. You'll probably make 5 planters.
If you were to buy that?
Oh, God knows, a real tufa?
I know.
Yeah,
Very
we can't
expensive.
afford it.
Well, it's nice because it's so porous. So when it gets wet, it just.